All right, fellas. Well, I don't have a response from anybody, which is a little bit different to me, but thank you to everyone for coming out. Like Coach said, I'm the linebackers coach up here at Youngstown State. I got hired about 6.5 weeks ago. So if you want to learn what not to do, don't take a job during a pandemic. Moving my family across the country has been an experience, but luckily we're all here and our staff is in place. I'm very lucky to get involved with Coach Phillips and getting on the ground floor with this program. So it's definitely something I'm excited to do. For the last 8 years, a little bit of background about me. I was a defensive coordinator at Emporia State out in Emporia, Kansas, a Division II school in the MIAA. Was there for 8 seasons, coaching linebackers, being the DC. I've also coached at Missouri S&T in Rolla, Missouri, and I've coached at Ohio University for 7 years there as well, as with my alma mater. But very excited to get started today with this. What I told Coach was I essentially took my teaching progression and consolidated into about 3 slides. And we're going to go through that as not as quick as I can, but just try to explain it as best I can in as much detail as I can without overwhelming it. And then I've got linebacker drill tape, and those techniques and the things I'm going to talk about are all going to pop up there as well. So first thing with us, linebacker play, we have 3 things that we focus on at Youngstown State with our culture within our football program. Our head coach is very, very big on this. It's something he's very proud of, and he wants us to make sure we continue to emphasize it in everything we do. So the 3 things we're going to be known for, and it's going to show up on film, is our effort and our attitude. Just talking about what you can control. You know, how much and this pandemic has been great for us because it gives us an opportunity to get better every day with our kids and not use it as an excuse. So we have been on the phone with our players every morning. We've talked to them every day between 8 and 10. We have a set schedule of when we do recruiting, a set schedule of when we talk defensively, a set schedule of when we talk as a position group. So our effort in doing that carries over to the attitude you present to your players. If you let this be an excuse, your kids are going to think it's an excuse. If you let this be a reason why you don't get better, your kids are going to struggle come fall. Next thing we have is the competitive spirit. And Coach talks a lot about that. Just how much do you want to win at everything you do? I saw a tweet that I actually just retweeted and commented on it and said, this will be my lifetime goals. There's a guy out there hitting home runs off of his 4-year-old or 2-year-old son. I have a 7-month-old. I will be doing that as soon as he can pitch, because that guy wants to win at everything he does. I think that's pretty funny. But I want to beat my wife at Monopoly. I want to be the best student I can be as a player. I want to be the best coach in the country. I want people to think that. There's nothing wrong with having that competitive spirit and wanting to be the best at everything you do. It's not arrogance. It's the mentality that you want to work hard enough to have that reputation. The next thing is unit strength. My head coach is not an offensive guy. He's not a defensive guy. Coach Phillips is the CEO. He straight up told us that. He told me that on my interview. And one of the things I was drawn to want to work for him is to give me a different perspective of how to run a program. He has us all in charge of our position group. You are the CEO of your group. And he talks about all of us being strong as a unit and holding your players accountable and trying to do things that we can do to make our group as good as it can be. So we have free reign. Do what you need to do to make your group the best it can be. The bottom thing that you have there, I talk about it all the time with my guys, and I just saw Dawson Holmes is actually on this cast as well, listening to it. He played linebacker for me at ESU for 4 years, and we talked about being different. At this position, I believe you have to be different. You have to be able to understand the entire defense. You have to be able to take getting chewed out by a coach. You have to be able to stay calm, make sure all the chaos is getting organized, and make sure you're doing everything you need to do to keep that group lined up. Oh, and by the way, you need to make 100 tackles. If you can handle that kind of a mentality, then you can play linebacker. It's the days of the game being A-gap to A-gap, tight track power, and that's all you're seeing are gone. You need linebackers that can run and play like a DB, that can fit and fill and be aggressive and stop the ball on 4th and 1, but at the same time, they can run with number 3 vertical. Those guys are not easy to find. You can find an awful lot of 6'2", 245 Mike backers that can't run, but they can plug an A-gap. If you play in a league that does that, then great, more power to you. I know North Dakota State's going to do that, but I also know South Dakota State's going to line up and spread. They're going to run 12 personnel fly motion, 11 personnel fly motion. I know that we're going to see teams that are going to spread us out and try to throw it all over the place. You have to stop what this game's becoming, and I believe you can be physical and still get that kind of stuff done. Next thing I'm going to talk about is my teaching progression. When I went anywhere I go, any interview I go on, any situation I get into with my players, the first thing I'm going to put up there is my teaching progression. I will not talk about a defensive scheme within what we do for at least 3 days. That's not me. That's not what I do. I want them to understand why. I teach the why. If you follow me on Twitter, you've seen us tweeting a bunch of things talking about understand the why, using the why from Youngstown State. That was something we talked about in recruiting. A good teacher will teach somebody why they do things. A good coach will teach a player why he does things. A good recruiter will teach the recruits to understand why they are coming to play somewhere. So we focus on teaching the why. I want to have my players understand why they are doing it before they understand how to do things. I'm sorry, what they're doing. It does you no good if a kid just memorizes an overzone why on the spill player. Okay, well, what does it mean to be the spill player? What does it mean to work A to B? What does it mean to rub the down block? What does it mean to read the fullback? All those things are built into what we do in teaching them why they are doing it. We teach offensive identification. The number one thing on my progression is alignments for the defensive line, followed by offensive identification. If your defensive players cannot identify an offense as quickly as you can communicate it as a coach, then you are missing out on an opportunity to get them better. They need to be able to talk to you and have a conversation where you say, okay, here's what happened. The Hamas, they were in King Open and H-WAN long motion, and they flipped the strength of the formation. So now we are in Queen. We got to bump our alignments. The back shifted to the open side of the formation, and they ran power O solid. So you need to rub that down block and knock it out to your boundary safety, even though he's on the strong side of the formation. If you can't understand that through the headset, then you can't get the defense taught the way you want to get it done. So my players will identify an offense. They will identify personnel. They will identify what receiver is what. Don't just draw circles. Draw a letter. Z, H, X, M, Q, P. I don't care, whatever you call them, but have it to where if P goes in motion, I hate when a player comes up and talks to me and says, hey, coach, on that play, did I do it right? Well, what was the formation? I don't know. There was two guys outside of me, and then the back. No, what was the formation? Thomas, it was Queen. Explain to me what Queen is. Get up on the board and draw it. Make them have ownership of what they're doing. Make them have ownership and believe in what you're teaching them. The next thing is teach how to do things, not what to do. The number one word that I absolutely hate in defense is spill. I hate hearing coaches say spill it, because if you spill it, you are running to the blocker. You want them to fit underneath of that block and make the play. So we've changed up terminology and taught how to do it. Teach them how to fit, not where to fit. Teach them how to align, not where to align. Why are they aligning in a 30 on this play as opposed to lining up in a 20-I when it's the same formation, same call? Something's going to be slightly different. Something's going to trigger that. Factors of alignment with an offensive formation. Factors of alignment with a tailback. All of those things are going to change where you're going to be, and all of those things are going to change how you do things. Words mean things. When I first started teaching linebacker run fits, I had a word for everything, and I've dumbed it down a little bit to try to make it a little bit better. But when I was developing the spring install for Emporia State, we had 7 run fits that we were going to go through. And right now, anyone that played for me in that defense, if you ask them what does gap fits means, it's this. What does tray fits mean? It's this. What does buzz fits, rocker fits, fall fits? How do you align in those 3 things, 4 things, 5 things, whatever it ends up being? Because you want to be able to always stop the run. So to me, if I'm going to always stop the run, I better teach those run fits within the defense. Don't teach them that this is how you fit when we run Hulk 8. Teach them that this is fall fits. When do you run fall fits? We could run fall fits in Hulk 2, Hulk 8, odd pineapple. Doesn't matter. I can run it in 17 different things. But if you know how to run fall fits, you know how to stop the run and be successful. And then teach the rest of it off of it. Next thing, I teach the types of techniques. So I will teach them exactly what I mean by the different types of tackles. If we have a roll tackle, if we have a profile tackle, if we have a run through opportunity, I'm going to teach them what those types of techniques are. You have to drill it, you have to film it, you have to show it to them, and you have to give them examples of why they do it. A good football player will not sit there, line up and say, okay, coach, well, I was lined up in the 30 and then the guard pulled and then I fit underneath the guard and then the back was running away from me. And when the back was running away from me, I ran really tight down lane. I knew right then it was a roll tackle. They will just do it. But they have to drill it and see it on film of themselves doing it and know why so that they can play that much faster. The best compliment you can get as a coach is when a player gets out there and says, hey, coach, I don't really think of anything you talk to me about during the game. Good, you shouldn't. If you're thinking about what I'm telling you, then you are thinking too much and you're playing too slow. I teach them how to take on blocks. I talk about rubbing the down block. I never say spill. Like I just said, I absolutely hate it. Rub the down block. Here at YSU, we're going to call it trim the fat. Get right off the fat hip of that offensive tackle, that tight end, the whatever it is, and rub it and trim the fat to make sure you knock everything out wide. And I will talk about it over and over and over again. Don't spill it. Rub the down block, and you'll see those drills show up. And the last thing we'll talk about is shock and shed. And that's just how do you take on a block? How do you want to take on half of a man? If I'm taking on a direct block indirectly, which means he comes at me, I don't want to go right down the middle of an offensive lineman. I know there's an offensive line coach in here. Tony Coling just signed on to the video. If I'm taking on an offensive lineman and Coach Coling's O-lineman comes at me and hits me face-to-face right down the center, I'm going to lose. I have to take on half of him in the gap that I'm supposed to be in so he can't turn me. That is a direct block. He's coming right at me. I take it on indirectly. If it's an indirect block, which means it's a puller or a fullback or someone that doesn't quite see me yet, then that's an indirect block. I am taking that on directly and running a 40 through his face and get vertical and violent. That's another key word that I talk about a lot is get vertical and violent in how we do things. I'm pretty proud that I figured this out as quick as I did because we're going right to film. And I apologize if I'm slow with this because I don't have a mouse. It's still in storage. So my day one drill install and things that I do. First thing we talk about is footwork. So you see the guys going through the cans. Can everyone see this? Coach, did I do a good job?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the film's going. This is, and I did this actually the first 2 days at YSU before we got quarantined and told to go home. They're going to go through these cans and they're going to keep their base and they're going to try to keep their eyes up and stay square because the one thing I want to teach them to do is change direction. So they're going in and up, working over the cans, up, in and out, lateral, keep your base, keep your eyes up, and make sure you are ready to change direction and go make a play. This is the most annoying thing for a lot of them to do. They absolutely hate doing it. But if you can do this for the time through the cans and you can do it for 80 plays, it is a true over-exaggeration of what needs to be done. Here it is, a reactionary type of it. So you see me running the drill, I move them to my left, I tell them to work up, I tell them to work back, I tell them to work up, I tell them to work back, and then I'm going to tell them to get out and go. It should look like a choreographed dance. We got to be able to, my first, and we are a little bit different in how we teach things. I do not teach anything to where our first step is up unless a fullback is directly at me right now. So my first step is always lateral. And we're going to work and we're going to change direction because if there's a puller or a flasher that brings us back, we need to be able to change direction. And then once you see get out, put that foot in the ground, stick, and get out. My biggest thing that I talk about is slow till you know. Slow till you know. If we have our depth, I don't like linemen to touch us. I don't want big guys to touch me. So I want to keep my depth and I want to work flat. So who we're watching in this situation, we are watching number 31. You'll see him show up a lot on this film. 31 he's going to be a 3-year starter, was an All-American this year as a junior, led the MIAA in tackles as a sophomore. He's probably one of the best football players you could be around. But if you watch his feet, fullback's at him. So watch him right here. Fullback at me, I can be aggressive. That was his rule. Look at 36 on the backside. Fullback is away from me. See how he's lateral. So there's our drill. And now watch 31's feet never stop moving. Never stop moving and then accelerate through. And then he's able to get vertical and make a strike. Now, he doesn't make this play. I understand the D lineman does. But how patient he is and how his feet stay, and he's always constantly moving those feet, is why he's able to change directions and go where he needs to go. The next play we're going to look at is right in there. Again, we're watching 31 again. He's right there in the middle of the screen. Puts his eyes on number 7. 7 brings him back. He steps. He's got a base. Even in the garbage, he's got a good base. That's why he's able to have strength. And you see that running back outweighs him by about 10 pounds. Strike. Stopped him right there in the case because I still have my hips underneath of me. I'm still in a good football position. I'm still in an ability to strike and get underneath of him and power clean through that guy. Talk about all those explosive lifts that you do. It's exactly what it comes down to. We're going to watch it here from the end zone angle. His eyes change too, which I love. You see him go here. Works to it. Step brings it back. Finds his way through, knows where he needs to be, gets skinny around blocks, and he has strength to make that play. So here is the reaction and a tackle. Same kind of concept. This guy's being a smart aleck, but you don't need to knock the can down, and he's wrong. It should be a right shoulder tackle. We're going to run through it, but this is getting over top of a block and not worried about striking. I don't need to touch them if I don't have to. So I'm working to my left, a flasher, a puller, the quarterback pulled it, something happened. Now get over top of that trash can. If you're over top of the trash can, then you will not get touched by the lineman climbing for you, a veer releasing tackle. See, now 31's going to go up there and put it down for him because he had to be a smart aleck and knock the can away and be funny. Work, and then this one, send it front side. So he's working with it. Now the play's taking me front side, and I run through it with my left shoulder. I run through it with my left shoulder. Again, run through it with my left shoulder. Working to the left, pull brings me back tight. That's better right here. He tries to keep it on his right shoulder. See how his eyes are up right there. His eyes are up. He's chest through the ball, running through it. I'd like him to run his feet a little bit more, but those donuts don't give up much, don't have much fight to them. The next thing, working to it, and now I have to strike the lineman to move on. I have to strike the lineman to get over the top. And then I want to get vertical. And notice I put the other sled here to show them this is how tight you need to come. If I go too wide, that ball carrier is going to come right off that down block. A good running back is like water. He will always find the crease. So we want to make sure that we come tight and we are vertical and violent in everything that we do. So it's a good job using his hands, getting over. Again, shock, how to take on a block. Shock, and then throw and get rid of him and get vertical. Shock, throw, and get rid of him. So now take that and throw it with a tackle. So this is combining the two drills. Okay, I'm working over. I know I'm going front side, get tight. Again, I want him right off that cone. Ball carrier's tight. It should be a left shoulder tackle. Run through him. You don't want to go low. You want to run through him and drive your feet.
Coach, got a question here for you.
Yep.
Coach, just curious, what do you call that footwork?
Buzz footwork. Buzz your feet. Is that it? We good? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So then there, I'm shocking to get over. I have to get off a block and run it down and run through him. Run through him with your left shoulder. We teach the shoulder leverage tackling that everyone does now. Just you want to shock and get through it. Here, shock, tight, run through it. That's a really good rep. I don't like him dipping his head right there. His head's down. Try to sink your hips and run through it and over-exaggerate it for the drill. You want to get lower so you can run through people. So again, you're working flat, you're working it, and all of a sudden that blocker shows up. So right here, this is a great example of shocking a blocker and then having to run flat down it. So again, imagine that we're watching number 31. Thomas, I promise you're on here too. So the flash comes back to him. He's working up. There's the blocker. Okay, so the blocker's coming at me. I want to use my thumbs up. I want to get in good position. I want to strike. I want to extend my arms and separate that ISO sled. Separate right there. There's my separation. I'm still tight. The ball carrier goes to my left, and I have to pursue, and I have to make a roll tackle. It's a very, very nice play. Strike, left shoulder, roll tackle. Then here is one where I'm not going to have to take on any blocks. I'm just going to have to get vertical. So we're watching number 7 right here. He's working to get over. He's working to get over, and boom, strike and run through it. He's got bad first step. He should be stepping with the fullback a little bit more, but he's over. He's over. Find your way through. Strike. And right here in the middle of the screen, number 7 is who we're watching. Right there. He's on the wrong side of the formation. He should be the B gap player. Right there is his gap, and it left. He's a little bit bad with alignment, but we'll forgive him. And try to get vertical. That's exactly what we worked on. I'm working over the can. There's the cone. There's the can I'm getting over. And that's what I got to come tight. And this ball carrier showing up, there's the yellow bag, left shoulder tackle. Now, he gets his head a little bit too far across, but you can't be too picky. Sometimes you just got to play ball. This is a bad example. So we're watching number 31 right here in the middle. You don't need to take on the block. Number one thing you need to understand, when I'm underneath fitting it, and I am not the box player, I am the inside out. We call it, again, people call it a spill player. I don't want him to think get to the blocker. I want him to think come tight, so that running back's got to go wide. So he comes tight right here. He takes on the block. Now, he does a good job striking and a good job separating from the block, but at the same time, he doesn't need to do this. If he comes tighter, he runs a 40 and rubs the down block. He runs a 40 through that guy with his left shoulder, and this guy is free if that guy blocks him. If you are good at what you do defensively, you should have a guy there, correct? We're in great shape. The guy that should be taking on the block here is the left safety, not the linebacker. It's a good job using your hands, but a very bad job doing what he's coached to do. You want to come tighter. Rub the down block. Rub the down block. Rub the down block. If I rub the down block, I run right here, and he runs out of room. And now it's a left shoulder tackle, and 60 has to make a decision. It is not my job to get blocked. It is 60's job to block me. Trust your speed and trust your leverage. Here is a better example of it. We're watching right here, number 31. This time he comes tighter, and he comes tighter. That guy still blocks him. Same exact thing that just happened. He still got blocked, but now there's nowhere inside for the ball carrier to go. The ball carrier now has to stay on path and go right here to our unblocked defender. So this play, and we'll go back, 2nd and 2, gain of 5, first down. This one, 1st and 10, loss of 1. Same concept, same idea. Different plays, but same concepts. Tight, rub the down block. Tight, rub the down block. Rub it, rub it, rub it. And it doesn't matter if it's a blitz path. It doesn't matter if it's a base. It all applies. So this one right here, I'm working and I see a puller. If I see a puller, I train them. I want them to point that arm and say pull, because I believe if you point where you're seeing the flash go, it takes you where you need to go. But this should look like a choreographed dance as well. Everyone's going. All they're doing is staring at me, and they're buzzing their feet out. When I clap, they come back. When I clap, they come back. Get over top of a down block. This is not a situation where we want to rub it as much as we want to get over top of a veer release. So think about it. If you're running power, okay, if I'm running power and I'm climbing to number 7 here, I'm taking that angle. If he comes up, I'm going to block him. If he goes over, he has a chance to get out of it and make a play.
I got a question here for you, Coach.
Okay.
Linebacker reads O-line to backfield.
We stare through our open gap to the running back that we are reading, whether it be fullback or tailback. We never read guards. We stare through their uncovered hips. Same with a tackle. If I'm the C-gap player, I'm staring through that uncovered hip to my running back. I should see it leave, but I want to always see the back. I won't focus on linemen. I'd rather them just see the back if they can't see both. So here we're watching number 7. His eyes are on the tailback. He steps. He's in his gap. A pull brings him back. A pull brings him back. Don't think spill it. Think rub the down block. But see how he gets over top of the double team. He still works up a little bit too much for my liking. He's got average feet because the linemen aren't as good as they should be. But as he goes here, step, vertical, go. So right now, number 7 is the A-gap player, staring through his A-gap to his tailback. The problem is it's pistol, and he doesn't know which side to cheat to. So once this back offsets right here, Dawson Holmes should already know, because he's in this meeting, I should cheat my alignment right here. If I'm the A-gap player, I should tighten down. So as he gets over, he's way too wide to play the A-gap. He got lucky that the puller took him out of his A-gap, and he rubs it tight. He gets over top of the double team, over top of the trash can, rub the down block, get vertical. It's not my job to get blocked. It's not my job to spill the puller. It's my job to make the play. Here is one with the linebacker working front side with a pull. He's working front side with a pull. Tight, rub the down block. Tight, rub the down block. Right there. So now, again, I'd like him to be a little bit more aggressive here and really just run through it. The ball carrier is in a position where I believe we can make this for a 1-yard tackle for loss. The ball ends up cutting back here. We had movement. It cuts back to the backside. We got to go. But if I'm number 31 right here, I've got the A-gap. One pull puts me over here. Track that hip. There's my new gap. I know that's where it's going to be. I don't need to think about it. I just need to go. If you accelerate through there, he makes that play before that ball carrier can cut behind him. I truly believe that. So here is the drill that teaches rubbing the down block. And I've said it a lot. I've already talked about it way too much probably. But if I see it and I see a puller bring me back. So in the sense you guys got to think is my gap is here. I'm looking in here and a puller is coming outside of it. So as that puller comes around, it has made my gap right here. My gap went from here to here, right off of the hip of that trash can. And I only make them do this 3 times because I want them to get vertical inside of the puller, and I want them to get off of that down block. Rub the down block. Buzz your feet, rub the down block. Buzz your feet, rub the down block. You'll see some good examples here of rubbing it, not necessarily always with pullers, but we're watching number 7. You see it better from the end zone angle. Hard to believe these jerseys were deemed illegal. No way you can read those numbers. For some reason, they said they were illegal. So I'm watching the fullback. Again, my gap moved from here to here. That's all it was. There's my new gap. I'm rubbing the down block right there and getting to where that running back has to come to me. He's still a little bit too wide. If you look at the separation, I believe he should make this play as a left shoulder tackle, but we want to come as tight as we can and make that ball go lateral. If you're a spill defense, you want things to go sideline to sideline, you want to use this and go as tight as you possibly can and try to make sure you are always knocking things out laterally. Watching right here. Currently, his gap is here. The fullback is going to flash and bring his gap to here. With a veer release, his gap is going to be out here. All of that happens, and he's got to start thinking, rub the down block. I've got to get here. Rub the down block. He ends up getting right off of it. Yes, the tackle still gets to him, but our D-line does a good enough job of hitting it. But we still have everything fit up. This is quarterback knife, and we are not in a defense where we are truly trying to help that. We're gapped out. We're not gaining that extra player all the time here. So we're in great situation to get this done. As this leaves, he's the B-gap player. Flash, B-gap, get over and inside of it. Over and inside of it. As tight as you can get, rub the down block and get where you need to go. It's one of my favorite clips. 1, 2, 3, all have eyes on him. Here's your box player. He has eyes on him as well, but it won't look the same. They're all pulled on a string when this flash happens. Pulls it over to the next gap. You see number 38 never waste himself right here. So the flash is away. I don't need to get too aggressive upfield right now. One flash puts me in A gap all the way over. He ends up all the way getting involved on the tackle because he doesn't waste himself running through gaps. Number 30 or 56, I think was his number this year. Again, flash brings me back. Get over, get vertical. Don't let that tackle push you by. Don't take the easy way out and let him push you by. Okay, get vertical and try to lean back into it and know that you got help rallying and you're going to knock it out to your player. It's a good job by him. Now we talk about seeing pullers and taking on indirect blocks directly. So we're watching number 52. Okay, we're watching number 52. He sees a puller come at him. It is not. He knows he's got someone outside of him. Based on the way this defense is designed, he knows he has someone outside of him. It's supposed to be number 1. He's a little bit slow. But he gets vertical and violent and rubs the down block. Vertical and violent and rub the down block. I don't care where that puller is going to turn up. You have to knock somebody out and knock that thing wide. Knock somebody wide. Knock somebody wide. I would rather you be a missile and get vertical and take somebody out than try to be perfect and fit it the exact right way. If you're vertical and violent, it makes up for a lot of things. We should take out 2 pullers every time. It's a great example of just getting vertical and rubbing the down block. Rub the down block. Look how tight he is. He is almost right off of our defensive end's hip. Our defensive end should be here taking out 1. He should be here taking out 2. And we should have him coming over the top and a safety fitting late. We're watching right here, number 43. So as they trade, he comes over. He should bump his alignment. He does a great job communicating with the Mike backer, knowing his fit. He's got B gap, probably a little too aggressive upfield, but watch how he tries to get himself out. And he's trying to push right off of 72 just to get in there. Now I'd like him to not dive into that gap so quickly. Wait and see what's going on and rub the down block right off of 72's hip, but he goes a little bit too aggressive. But 31 works over the top and makes everything right. Again, he's just violent, and what he does is at least he makes this puller right here be aware of him. If he runs through it here, he takes him out. If he runs through it here, he takes him out. But here, he doesn't quite take him out, but he makes him pay attention to him so that 31 is unblocked, and now we're fit up perfectly. Difference between a gain of 0 and a gain of nothing. Should see the pullers. Should see the pullers a lot better. He's got bad eyes because he's trying to communicate the motion. He's got to stare through here to his tailback or to here, depending on what we were reading in this situation. I should see that puller and know I no longer need to be there. The Mike backer's going to take care of it. Get over the top. Don't waste yourself. Go make a play. 31 made a lot of people right. Excuse me. One of my favorite examples of it, and we actually missed the tackle from the first time, but if we're going to watch it from the tight because that's what makes it better. We're watching here. His gap is right here with the nose guard. One pull is going to put him right here, right off the hip of that guard. Watch how fast he goes and gets burnt. He ain't thinking about anything but he is trying to beat number 3 to the point of attack. He ain't worried about spilling. He ain't worried about anything else. He's getting right off that down block and making that thing go wide. And now number 43 gets to make an easy tackle because there's no one blocking him, and he ends up coming outside in, left shoulder tackle for a 1-yard gain. 31 will be the first to tell you he believes he should have made that play. So really, if you look at it, 64 doesn't block a soul, and we get a hand on it from 3 different ways. Now we're talking pass coverage. So working your feet, you got to play run first. So every pass drill that I do with linebackers, we're always going to work our buzz steps first, our key steps first, so that they don't just get out of it, okay? Then they get their depth, then they settle, and they work off my shoulder. Work off my shoulder. The shoulder doesn't lie. So they're going to work lateral, the ball's thrown, make a play. Pretty self-explanatory, pretty easy drill. Keep them honest. All it is that mirror drill. Work here, work here, work here, get out. So right here, he was playing the drill for a pass. He started going here and reacted out. Focus more on these 3. This was our nickel. He's going to open up and max routes, but we're really focusing on cueing the quarterback. So we're working pedal. If you're on your landmark, you pedal. If you're not on your landmark, you burst to get to it. So get pedal, settle. Work with the shoulder, throw it, catch it. Pretty easy, but all he's doing is working with the shoulder. Don't commit until the wrong arm comes off the football. So your right-handed quarterback, that left hand comes off the football, we're able to go make a play. Watching number 7. In his mind right now, he is the low hole player. He is on his landmark. His landmark's right at the top of the E, in the middle of the E. He feels like he is on his landmark. So all he's going to do here is pedal. Quarterback stops getting depth. You stop getting depth. So right now, I'll pause it. He stops getting depth. I stop getting depth. Now, where is his shoulder looking? His shoulder is looking right out here. So I am going to work lateral on a string and try to take away the window. Work with the shoulder. Work with the shoulder. Work with the shoulder. End up making a play on the hash. Close out the window. Worst celebration ever. No idea what to do. You get a pick in a playoff game and you just get up and don't know how to celebrate. Watch it right here. His landmark is right in here on the hash. He doesn't feel like he needs to burst to it. He just pedals. Quarterback stops getting depth. I stop getting depth. Make a play on the ball. Try to take away windows. We're not worried about routes. We're worried about being a zonized player here. Pedal, settle. Where's the shoulder? Everyone focuses on looking off the safeties. They don't think about looking off those low players. Watching right here, middle of the screen. So his landmark right now is this hash. So as he's dropping over to it, The shoulder is down the middle of the field. There's no reason to go to the middle, to the opposite hash if the shoulder is there. So he starts working back, goes and makes a play.
Coach got a question here for you.
Yes, sir.
For your zone coverages, are the linebackers always spot or landmark dropping and never pattern reading?
In this defense, the last 8 years, yes. In this defense we're doing now at YSU, no, they'll be different. They'll do both. But we will play both. We like to match routes off of quarters a little bit if we can, but for the most part at ESU, I was always big on spot dropping to hash, low hole hash, or spot dropping to numbers, hash numbers if you were going to go 4 underneath. Making tackles off of a pass drop. Right here is an example. Get to our landmark, settle, ball's thrown in front of us, right shoulder tackle. Ball's thrown in front of us, right shoulder tackle. This is not an example for a roll tackle. This is a run through him with my right shoulder. Run through him with right shoulder leverage. Get out, settle, ball's thrown, right shoulder, run through the tackle. Run through the tackle. The biggest concern I have is people talk about leverage tackling and they say it's soft, it's arm tackling, everything's going to be an arm tackle, things are going to break the tackle. If you run through them with proper leverage, it is not an arm tackle. We're watching number 21. His landmark's out wide. He settles. The ball's thrown in front of him and brings him back. Right shoulder tackle. Take your head out of it so you don't get called for targeting. Right shoulder, run through, drop him. Work, settle, right shoulder tackle. Since we implemented this way of teaching at Emporia State, we got called for targeting 0 times on a pass ball, on a ball thrown, and we had lost 1 kid in 7 years to a concussion making a tackle. Probably one of my favorite clips that I have. We're watching number 31. At this time, he weighed probably 205, 210. This running back weighed 240. He drops, the ball's thrown right now. He knows that running back is on my right shoulder. There is nothing else in my mind but running a 40 through him with my right shoulder. This isn't a roll tackle. This isn't a soft tackle. It is a right shoulder, run through him tackle. Right shoulder, run through him tackle. Boom. Getting flat on 3-step, ball's outside of me. One of the toughest things to do is dictate where your leverage is in this situation. If the ball carrier is here, you want to make sure you keep him on your left shoulder. If you go here, he's going to cut back inside of you and there may not be pursuit help. So we always tried to keep him on the left shoulder as we ran out here. Because a lot of times if we're pursuing, it's going to be some form of a tunnel screen or a bubble or something coming back to us. Probably one of the toughest plays to make. We're watching number 7 right here. So he has his drop. He reads. Right now, I have to keep him on my left shoulder because if I go too far and he gets behind, he's running to linemen. Sometimes we talk about letting him run to pursuit. We don't understand in a tunnel screen, their pursuit, they're getting guys off of it. We got to make sure that ball can't get back to that lineman's hip. Gets his head across probably a little bit too much, but he runs through him with proper leverage. I would just like him to keep his head on the other side, not leave his feet. Day 1 tackling circuit for us is we taught getting in a position Everyone talked about the hawk tackle from the Seahawks, eyes through the thighs, shoulder through the thigh board, trying to wrap, collapse the thighs, stop the engine. I've heard a lot of people call it that. But you want to bring and explode through his hips, explode through his thighs. You want to stop the engine, kill the engine by exploding through his thighs. And sometimes you can't get your feet back underneath of you. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. Sometimes you are able to bring your hips underneath of you and keep running. So we can kill the engine and try to continue to run our feet. So this was the next progression off of that. Learning how to just throw my face in there, throw my shoulder into his thighs, and then another time where I have to get my shoulder into his thighs and get my feet running again underneath of him. Run my feet. This is bad. This is the bad example right here because he's so bowed. Okay, as he comes up, you want to really make sure that he brings those hips and doesn't stay so flat back. These hips needs to come underneath it and try to stand this thing straight up. But here's a really good look at it. We're watching number 8 right here. So he gets off a block, and in this situation right now, he doesn't feel like he can get all the way in there. So he just goes right through the ball carrier's outside thigh with his inside shoulder, and that's the bag. There's the donut. There's him wrapping up, and he puts his face on the football. I can't run my feet. All I can do is just try to explode through his thighs and kill the engine. Explode through his thighs and kill the engine. He does a really good job. Watch his arms. How he wraps up. The engine is killed. I know the guy loses the ball, but even then, his legs aren't going anywhere. The engine is killed right there. Any D-line coaches watching, I'll let you have the glory of the D-lineman scored here. Don't get very many of those. And you see a really good shot of it right there. I'd like his eyes to be up. But when you get down that low, you're wrapping around. My head's out of it. I'm not in danger. Here's another example, probably a little bit better. Kill the engine. I'd like him to run his feet a little bit more, but it's a left shoulder into the thighs, roll up, kill the engine. There's a roll tackle. Everyone does this. Everyone does this differently. We drug a bag. We rolled a donut. Rolled it a bunch of different ways. But at the end of the day, just roll. End up try to get. We call it a 720 roll. Try to roll as many times as you can. But a really good example of it here. He gets away from me. I don't get him down the first time. Just keep rolling. He will come with me. Eventually, you get him on the ground. Just keep rolling and running your feet. What he does wrong here, rub the down block and run inside out. Keep him on your right shoulder. He loses leverage. He's got to come back. Whatever you need to do to get him on the ground. At the end of the day, that's what tackling is. Guys, here's my contact information. If anyone needs it, I just got my email set up at Youngstown State, so I have access to that. If you want me to send you anything that I have, I'm not sure. I can probably still share stuff on ESU's huddle, but Twitter's another good way to get a hold of me. But email, anything you need specifically, like if it's urgent and I don't see you follow me and I can't direct message you, shoot me an email. Anything you guys need, I'm here to help. I really appreciate Coach setting this up and giving me the opportunity to speak with you. And if there's any questions, I'd love to answer them.
Yeah, absolutely. No, Coach, and thank you. Absolutely. If anybody has any questions that you'd like Coach to touch on real fast, please feel free to drop them in the chat box. But for sure, Coach, man, really thank you so much for spending the time. Here's one that just came in. How do you teach them to take on the ISO blocks?
Run a 40 through the inside shoulder or through the shoulder with proper leverage. If I'm supposed to be inside of it, I run a 40 through his inside shoulder. If I'm supposed to be outside of it, I run a 40 through his outside shoulder. Vertical and violent.
I like that. Anybody else? Any last minute questions? Do you think you can be effective at both landmark dropping and matching routes?
Yes, but it takes a lot more work if you've got the time. It depends on how many coaches you have on your staff and how much time you can dedicate to it. At ESU, when I had all 3 backers and our DBs coach had all 5 DBs. It was a little bit tough. I think we tried to keep it to where they were doing one thing and be really good at it. If you have a lot more coaches, we have 7 guys on the defensive side of the ball at Youngstown State. I do believe we can do both and be successful with it.
There you go. Anybody else? Last minute questions? And obviously, Coach posted his contact information. So if anybody thinks of something later on and wants to reach out, I'm sure he'd be more than willing to answer questions. But Coach, thank you again, man, for jumping on and spending some time with us, man, and schooling us up on some linebacker play. It was awesome.
Thank you, guys. Anyone needs anything, by all means, let me know.
Yes, sir. Take care, guys.